everybody, and welcome back to Life in the Cosmos with me, Riley Adair. Today, we're going to be doing something totally different. I want to talk all about skincare and my acne journey. You may be wondering, this is such a weird combination of things to all put into my podcast because it's all been about astrology and spiritual stuff, but skincare is one of my passions, and I tend to basically rotate through things and areas of research. So today we're gonna go through, we'll start with my story. I used to have terrible acne all like along my cheeks here. You know, my skin's not perfect now, but it's like 6,000 times better. And I'll explain like the root cause of it and what it ultimately came down to and how I healed my acne. And then we'll get into building a skincare routine. Need to know the things you need to know about how to build the right skincare routine for you and for your skin, as well as just like I'll go through a checklist of different things that you can do if you're struggling with acne so that you can find the root cause and eventually get to a place where you're feeling happy and confident with your skin. I'll go through, what products to use, like how to build a basic skincare routine if you've never done that before and why it's important. As well, I'll also be going into the things that I've tried in the more cosmetic side of skincare between Botox, microneedling, um, and like just like the little extras and add-ons that you can get into if you're also interested. Disclaimer, I it goes without saying, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a dermatologist. I'm not a nurse. I'm just someone who's incredibly passionate about skincare. And I've done a lot of my own research from trusted sources. So, like a big one that I have is Doctorly on YouTube. They're the best. They also have a great podcast, but they're two dermatologists who go do deep dive into skincare and their products. So that's kind of a lot of where I'm sourcing my information. And honestly, just years and years and years of study and research and figuring out what works for my skin. So without further ado, let's get into it. So all throughout high school, I had such good skin. I was so lucky. Clear skin, maybe a pimple here or there, but nothing crazy. Then I turned 22, and that's when my skin really started to go crazy. It is like a classic. People say you go through like a second puberty in your early 20s, and that was so my experience. I was really, really trying to model. That was all I wanted to do with my life. Like that was the thing I was going towards. So when I got into modeling, I started just getting more into, taking care of my body, my skin, and at the same time I was going through a period of deep, deep, intense, chronic stress. This is key. Chronic stress. And it was around that time that I started doing like DIY skincare things of like putting coconut oil on my face and thinking it was moisturizing, even using coconut oil on my hair, which it was like I was looking up all the cheapest DIY way things of like getting nice and hydrated skin, which honestly exacerbated things so much and made it so much worse. So my skin started out kind of okay. Once I started adding on the coconut oil and whatever else I was doing, it started to get so bad. There's pictures here, and I probably spent a year of my life, almost 2 years maybe, fighting this terrible acne. I got acne all up my cheeks. Like it was, and I was bartending at the time, and there's such a pressure to be pretty when you're bartending and when you're modeling that it was awful. Like I mean, I've gone through some really tough things in my life, but acne is crazy. When you have acne, like I'm talking deep cystic acne that covers your whole face, and then you have people commenting on it. Like I remember I had this guy once say to me, he's like, "Oh, your skin's so much better this week." And then you're just like, you literally, I just wanted to die. Yeah, acne is so shitty. It is like your insecurities are coming out on your face, and there is such a lack of control, which I think is so hard to deal with. And then you're going through your whole acne journey of trying to figure out how to heal your acne. So basically, it got to the point where I was constantly having pimples, and it started out just being pimples around my chin, and then it went all up my cheeks. You're gonna see all these photos I'm gonna post up here. They're crazy. Also, my eyebrows in this era were really doing something. Not good, but they were doing something. And so, and at the same time, I started having a lot of physical symptoms. Oh, this might be TMI, but I started like bleeding black during my period. Like there would just be a lot of like black blood. My like muscles were really cramping, like my body ached. And then I started trying to cut out different foods because I did know before this even started that for me, whenever I eat dairy, I tend to break out. That's just been a mainstay in my life forever. So I've kind of always had to avoid like heavy dairy products. Then the whole trying to heal the acne became probably my only focus, especially because I was trying to model. So I went to all of these different like doctors or skincare clinics, and they would give me stuff that would probably work for a little bit, but basically, it would always be over exfoliation. Like they'd give me glycolic acid to use every day, salicylic acid. It was a lot of products that relied on stripping my skin, which for me was not helpful. I find when I have acne, it's better for me to hydrate my skin. It wasn't until I ended up going to the doctor begging her to like help me figure this out. They got my hormones tested, obviously, because I was having so many other physical symptoms. And it turned out that I have polycystic ovarian syndrome. And one of the most common symptoms of PCOS is acne. So that is when I started birth control and spironolactone. And they also put me on tretinoin. So they were doing kind of like three different things all at once. So let's start with the tretinoin. The tretinoin I didn't keep up with, although I might go back to because retinol and retin A, which is tretinoin, is so good for your skin. Disclaimer, if you're starting tretinoin, there will be a purge period. It's not going to be fun. It's actually going to suck. But that is just part of it. And then but what really brought my acne down so much and what ultimately healed it so much was the combination of my spironolactone and my birth control. Spironolactone is actually a diuretic, and it weirdly had a lot of calming influence on me. It makes you pee like crazy. I peed 100 times a day, but it kind of, because it's a pressure medication, I think it actually just made me more calm and gave me less anxiety because I think what really sent my body into this crazy place was having such chronic stress. And for whatever reason, the Spiro kind of helped. Obviously, it had been a few years at that point, so my whole life had changed. And then the birth control is what I'm still using. I don't use Spiro anymore, but I still am on birth control, and I'm honestly 100% purely on birth control because I just don't want to go back there. I just don't want to go back there. I can't go back to having acne. Ultimately, for me, the root cause for the acne was my hormones. And I know that's not going to be that way for everyone. And I think that's also why I benefited so much more from hydrating my skin and finding products that my skin loved, as opposed to constantly stripping my skin with these like acne prone skincare steps that everyone wants you to use. So that's my experience. One of the biggest things that I learned from the whole experience was to stop giving so much credence to sometimes even what medical professionals were telling me was going to help my skin. Like the spiral obviously did help. The birth control did help. Getting my hormones tested was absolutely crucial here. But I was going to so many skincare places where they'd say, like, give me a glycolic acid and ask me to use it every day and then not even give me a sunscreen or just pump me full of salicylic acid. And I would find that it wouldn't work, but I would just trust them because, this is their job, they know what they're doing. But I would often be reversing the progress that I had made because around that time I had started getting more into like kind of at the time I was more into like K-beauty type skincare, which K-beauty has a really strong emphasis on hydration. And I was seeing more results with that than I was with the typical acne prone type skincare. So let's get into it. If you have acne, I'm going to kind of go through a checklist of things that you're going to want to look at and before we get into building a skincare routine. So I know this might be so obvious, but hygiene. When a lot of people, this is so annoying. When I had acne, there's this kind of idea that you're dirty and you don't have good hygiene, which I think is usually not true because most people with acne are probably washing their faces and taking care of their skin so much more than someone without. But I did still realize that when I was having acne, I was definitely doing not having some of the best hygiene practices that were making it worse. So like a big thing for me is like every Sunday I change my pillows and my sheets and make sure everything's washed and clean. And that was the probably I made such a big difference just in general, just getting on a schedule of always like washing and changing your sheets. Obviously, we'll get more into this later, but like washing your face every night, very important. Taking your makeup off, extremely important. Like you do not want to go to bed with gunk and junk all over your face. Even if you're not wearing makeup, always good to cleanse at the end of the day. Like I said, we'll get into that later. Another thing that I did is kind of take a look at your face and look at where your acne is in your face. I did Chinese face mapping. There's an example of Chinese face mapping here. So this is kind of breaks down the different parts of your body that your acne is connected to. So this was how I learned that a lot of my acne that was coming in through my cheeks was hormonal. A lot of the acne that I was getting around my chin that I still have like one little one here that I get sometimes around my chin is mostly due to when I fold and eat dairy. And there's other parts like your liver, like, if your liver has been having trouble detoxing. So even though this isn't, I don't know the exact science behind Chinese face mapping, I just find it very useful because it gives me an idea of maybe where the acne is coming from. I also personally do notice that for me, again, not science, this is just me. But for me, the type of acne that usually results in a whitehead has more to do with my lifestyle and my food choices. Um, because I always see it right after I eat cheese or dairy. That's when I get little bumps with little whiteheads, like right around here. I also see it if I eat a lot of greasy food or sugary foods. But the more cystic acne, so the acne is cystic acne is that deep under the skin acne that takes quite a long time to form. It can be very, very painful. It can get very red and inflamed, and it just really wreaks havoc and takes quite a while. For me, that was always more associated with hormonal acne. So that's helpful because it's a lot easier to kind of start to see like what the potential causes of your acne might be and maybe what you can do to alleviate that. I also think it's good to explore all routes. So another thing is, I've kind of touched on this briefly, but food intolerances, what you eat and what you ingest into your body is going to come out through your skin. How you treat your body as a whole is going to make a big difference on how your skin looks. So I know a lot of people will do, especially when they're going through their acne journey, and I did this too. Like I cut out gluten, I cut out dairy, I cut out all basically everything. And I did it one at a time to kind of see what was good for me and what wasn't. For me, it really gluten doesn't matter, I don't think. For me, it really came down to dairy, but that's a good thing that you can do as well if you do think it is a food intolerance. You can even start like a little bit of an elimination diet or whatever, just to kind of figure out what your body responds to and what it doesn't respond to. I think so many of us are guilty of this, but often when our skin starts to break out, it is a natural urge to try to solve it in any way possible as quickly as you can. My experience is that if you're gonna run out to the store and buy six different acne products and put them all in one night, girl, you are in for a disaster. Okay? So if you're experiencing a breakout right now, do not, please do not go out and get the next acne product for you to try, and then you have three new acne products that you're all trying in one day, because often when you're dealing with acne, and if you know we've gone through, is it a hormonal issue? Is it a hygiene issue? Is it a food issue? Right? So we're kind of covering like on a holistic basis, like all the different possibilities of things that it could be. The next question would be, is it something that's coming from the current products that you're already using? This is huge. This is very important and very probable. For me, I found that I would break out from vitamin E. Vitamin E is also under the name of tocopherol or tocopherol acetate. I don't know if what the derivative is between the two, but they're both vitamin E derivatives. So for me, anything with vitamin E, I can't do. How did I learn this? The best way is you got to strip your skincare routine probably way back. If you have just introduced a new product into your skincare routine and now you're having a breakout, take that out because that might be the biggest culprit. But if you want to start from ground zero, you get just a very simple cleanser, because we need to cleanse our skin. I'm a big morning and night cleanser girl. I know some people will say you don't need to cleanse in the morning, and doctors will support that. For me, if I don't cleanse in the morning, I'm for sure breaking out. So cleansing the skin in the morning, cleansing the skin at night. Then a moisturizer, you can just have a simple moisturizer, and you're gonna need an SPF. If you're gonna add any products onto that, take a good look on the ingredient list and even on your moisturizer as well, on your ingredient list, and just read through the products. They may be a bunch of gibberish to you, but this is a way for you to kind of start to get an idea of what works for your skin and what doesn't. And also, when I'm talking about this pared back skincare routine, when you are having acne, only use products that you know your skin doesn't have a negative reaction to, because what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to see what products are creating that adverse reaction in your skin. So if you've had Old Faithfuls that you've used for years and years and years and your skin was perfect when you were using those, just in the time being, just go back to those. Just like literally just do cleanse, moisturize, protect with your SPF, because we're going to build products up from the ground up. We need to know what is inflaming your acne and what's not. So, if you are going to introduce a new product into your routine, what you want to do is you want to take it slow. Take it slow. So introduce one product, make sure you read the ingredients and give it 2 weeks. See if there's any changes in your skin, if you're starting to break out, if you're not. At the end of 2 weeks, if everything's good, perfect. We can keep going. We can move on. And maybe even if you want to introduce a new product in, then you can, same thing, take 2 weeks, let it like see how it rests with your skin. And then you can keep moving from there. A lot of this is that when we're dealing with acne, we want to jump to an immediate solution. We want to find the way forward. We want to just figure it out because it's so debilitating. It's so debilitating having huge breakouts. But we gotta slow the roll and we can't do that because that's just gonna make it worse, I promise. Okay, so let's get into building a basic skincare routine. So, what you're gonna want to start with is a cleanser. For me, cleansers are just that. It's a cleanser. You don't need to break a bank with a cleanser. You don't need to get a cleanser with all these fancy ingredients, especially if you are trying to heal acne or whatever it is. And what I'm going to tell you about these routines is actually going to extend far beyond just if you have acne prone skin. This is this basic routine is the mainstay of all of your skincare moving forward. And if you want to add extras in, you can do that based on whatever your skin concerns are. But the general rule for a basis of a skincare routine is we want to cleanse, we want to treat, and we want to protect. So cleansing is your cleanser. I love when my skin was really not doing well, I would use the Vana cream cleanser. It was like at the time like 12 or $13. You can get it at Walmart. It's a simple, no frills cleanser. So you're gonna want to stay away from things with, especially if you don't know what's causing you to break out, stay away from things that have, perfumes and a bunch of additives. You just want something that's going to cleanse your skin. Right now, I use the CeraVe Hydrating Cleanser just because sometimes I find that cleansers strip my skin just a little bit too much. But that's another great, simple cleansing option. So you start cleansing morning and night, hopefully, if you're like me, but hopefully. Um, then you want to moisturize. Some basic moisturizer. CeraVe has a lot of really good options. I'm currently using Embryo Elise, which is a great moisturizer, especially for like underneath your makeup. And yeah, there's so many good options for moisturizers. Like honestly, CeraVe is such a good brand, so affordable. So I always kind of advise people to do that. Or like a La Roche-Posay has a bunch of good moisturizers. There's Tolerian, which is good for like just everyday moisturizing. They also have like an ultra sheer and ultra light moisturizer. It's honestly depending on what you like in a moisturizer. And then you want to use SPF. Why? Why do we want to use SPF? Okay. Because the sun damages your skin, right? Like this is just I think we all know this, right? The sun damages your skin. SPF is going to protect your skin and help maintain the same levels of collagen because the UV rays break down the collagen. But SPF is also very important because one of the big things with acne and even with aging is hyperpigmentation. So there's post-acne hyperpigmentation, which is when you get, scars and little pockets and just little things that you want to. An SPF will help protect your skin so that it will get rid of the hyperpigmentation so much faster. Also protects your collagen and just overall protects your skin. The SPF is like a shield that you put on your skin, and these three things, cleansing, moisturizing, and protecting with SPF, are the mainstays of any good skincare routine. You, there is no point. Like, let me say it louder for the people in the back. There is no point doing anything for your skin if you're not doing these three steps. There's no point getting Botox, there's no point getting filler, there's just no point getting microneedling, laser, all of these things if you're not hitting all of these three steps. To have good skin, we need to start with having a good foundation. And the good foundation is in these three things. Obviously, food and lifestyle and smoking and da 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 da. All of that matters as well. So we have the basics, right? cleanse, moisturize, protect with the SPF. What other products do we want to use? So this is where it gets a little bit interesting because let's say we're talking about acne prone skin right now, there's four different active ingredients that you could use. So a big one would be retinol. So what is retinol? Retinol is a retin A. It improves cellular turnover, which helps with acne, and it encourages collagen production. So is great for acne and for aging. So that's a really strong option. You can get retinol in a tretinoin, which is like a prescription from your doctor. So that's very, very strong. So if you're doing a tretinoin, you want to start slow. Do it at night because it will make your skin very sensitive to the sun, which is also why we always have to apply that SPF. But do it at night and, start doing it like once a week just so your skin can get more used to it. For me, my skin's very dry, so I like to use retinols in moisturizing creams. So I used to always use the Olay Regenerist Retinol Nighttime Cream. Right now I'm using the Rock Retinol Moisturizing Cream. I love those because pairing the retinol with a moisturizer kind of alleviates some of that drying effect that people can have. And like I said, my skin always responds better to moisturizer. For some people, now again, I think this kind of really depends on the type of acne that you have. You could use something like a benzoyl peroxide, which is great for inflammatory acne and it helps break down comedones in your skin. So that's really great. That's another great option you could try. Another one that's very common, doesn't work for me, is salicylic acid. So that's salicylic acid is going to kind of do a similar thing as retinol in the sense that it's going to encourage cellular turnover. But for me, I find it to be way too drying. So I stay away from salicylic acid as a whole, but I know for other people it works wonders, which is why it is a mainstay in a lot of um, acne type in acne skincare. Yeah. Another option that I actually use right now and I really like it is azelaic acid. So azelaic acid is good because the other three things that I listed are active ingredients. So basically what that means is that you often can't use them in combination with one another. And like retinol, you can't use when you're pregnant. You got to be very careful because those ingredients kind of do so much that it can kind of strip your skin and sometimes it can kind of like overwhelm your skin a little bit, which is why with retinols, like we introduce them slowly, right? But azelaic acid is great. It pairs with everything. It helps brighten your skin. It's great for helping acne. So that's another option. I've been using it recently. I really like it also because it really does help with my hyperpigmentation. So these are four different kind of acne treating heroes that you can use. And kind of just, it's like you can test them out and find one that works for you. Or you can even think, like, well, what are your skincare concerns? Like, are you just worried about acne, or are you also worried about wrinkles and fine lines? Which, that case, I would say, like, definitely move towards a retinol. I think a retinol is a great thing to have in a skincare routine as a whole. Or if like you're really struggling with hyperpigmentation and dark spots, you can even use an azelaic acid and a retinol. Especially because azelaic acid is just so easy, it pairs with so much. So then let's get into some other things. So like the skincare plus plus. Like we've talked about some of these active ingredients that you can use to help with your acne. But in terms of like if you want to take your skincare to the next level, what are some other ingredients that we want to look for? I'm actually going to start with one that the doctors don't tout as much, but for me, I found really great results with is alpha arbutin. When I was kind of coming out of having a lot of acne, but I still really struggled with the dark spots, I used alpha arbutin paired, of course, with sunscreen. And that helps get rid of basically all of my dark spots. That was honestly amazing. So I can't recommend alpha arbutin enough. I use alpha arbutin from The Ordinary. It's, I love it. I notice it when I don't have it. It's been a holy grail for me for literally forever now. So thank you. Thank you, alpha arbutin. Another one is niacinamide. So niacinamide helps oil control and helps like make sure there's no like excess oil production and also like even skin tone and helps with hyperpigmentation. So hyperpigmentation can come, it's basically any skin discoloration. So we can see this from, dark spots from aging. You can get hyperpigmentation from acne. So niacinamide is great. It just kind of helps smooth or keep your oil production in like a good spot, especially if you're someone who has really oily skin, you're definitely going to benefit from niacinamide. Another great one that honestly I love a lot is vitamin C. Vitamin C is brightening. It also helps with collagen production, helps with hyperpigmentation. But yeah, if you're finding that your skin is kind of dull looking, vitamin C is going to give you that boost that you want, and it's going to kind of give you that glow. So if you haven't used vitamin C before and you just are looking for something with kind of like a dramatic result, vitamin C might be a really good way to go. So I think this might be a good time for a disclaimer because one of my biggest pet peeves with the skincare industry is that we started giving people access to these increasingly powerful skincare products without really giving them the knowledge to use them, right? Like I just said a bunch of active ingredients. Active ingredients are your retinols, your vitamin C's, your acids, your AHAs, your BHAs, those exfoliating acids, right? And you hear that these things are wonderful, great, I'm gonna buy them all. The problem is that that's a lot on our skin, and that's why we don't want to use these things. We have to use these things with caution. So, in the morning, I use vitamin C because at night I use retinol, and I'm not going to overlap the two actives because honestly, they don't pair very well together, and it can cause damage to your skin because you're almost putting your skin under too much stress. Another thing is in the summer when my skin is more hydrated, that's when I stick consistently more to those active ingredients, the vitamin C's and the exfoliants. Whereas in the winter, when my skin's more dry, it's not going to do as well with those constant active ingredients. It needs more hydration. So that's when I enter in things uh, that's when I would pump more hydrating type products like your hyaluronic acids, your peptides, any hydrating mask. I slug every night, which is where you put a layer of Aquaphor on your face, but I will never miss a night slugging in the winter. Whereas in the summer, sometimes I can let it go because my skin is dying for moisture. Now, this is a dry skin girl that is talking. So, but if you're struggling with texture and you just kind of feel like your makeup is sitting on top of your face, or you just kind of look a little bit dull and your skin's kind of uneven in texture, that's when we want to start exfoliating. I actually recommend exfoliating far far before your skin looks dull. But a good rule of thumb is you want to exfoliate at least once a week when you're under the age of 30. Because as when we're young, our skin is naturally going to have like a high cellular turnover, right? Which is when we're kind of constantly producing new skin. And as we get older, that process starts to slow down, which is why it's okay then to start exfoliating, once or twice a week. Because basically what we're doing is we're encouraging that process to continue. We're encouraging the cellular turnover to keep going at the rate it was when we were younger. However, if we're doing this too much or too often, it can be overly drying and overly stripping to our skin. So this is kind of something I've been interweaving throughout is our skin barrier is our skin's ability is what retains our skin's moisture. So if we overdo it on the actives, if we overdo it on the exfoliants, what we're ultimately doing is we are damaging our skin barrier, which is not going to make it impossible for our skin to retain a level of hydration. What happens when we can't keep our skin hydrated? Well, then our skin will try to produce more oil, and then that's when we get breakouts. So it's like a fine line between this doctrine of like stripping your skin of excess oil so you don't get acne and not overly stripping your skin because your skin will then produce oil and then create acne. So with the exfoliating, I generally, it's a good idea to exfoliate at night if you're not gonna wear sunscreen. Because, once you exfoliate, you have a new layer of skin that's revealed, and the last thing we want to do is go out in the sun and have that get completely damaged. What I do is I exfoliate in the morning because then I always apply my SPF right after, and often the reason why I do it in the morning is because I always apply my retinols at night. So I'm just making sure that we're not doing too much, basically. So we've kind of talked about a lot of active ingredients, and let's talk about maybe some more hydrating ingredients. So I use the Cosrx peptides. Peptides are so good for hydrating your skin, and I just like live and breathe by peptides and anything that's going to hydrate my skin. There's also hyaluronic acid. That's such a popular one, especially these days. The thing with hyaluronic acid is make sure you apply your hyaluronic acid to wet skin because what hyaluronic acid does is it has molecules that are going to bond to water molecules. It's going to bond to moisture in the skin. So if you're not applying your hyaluronic acid to wet skin, your hyaluronic acid is actually going to take the moisture that's already living in your skin and basically absorb it into itself, which we definitely don't want. And this is also why a lot of people will caution you against using hyaluronic acids in the winter because it's so dry that ultimately the hyaluronic acid is going to just kind of take the moisture that's already in your skin. I love hyaluronic acid. It's usually a really great ingredient, usually easy. I know that Vichy has a really good hyaluronic acid. I haven't used it, but that's great for just having like an immediate plumping effect. So hyaluronic acid is great to use in the morning, and it's not going to be overly stripping or damage your skin. A lot of people will also use something like snail mucin as that will is good for hydration. I personally have stepped away from snail mucin because, and there's no shade. I used to use it and I used to love it, but I don't use it anymore because they aggravate the snails to get the mucin from them, and it just makes me feel so sad that I just can't do it. So what are some other things that I've done for my skin? Well, let me tell you, the best thing, hands down, the best thing I've ever done for my skin, besides building a solid skincare routine and putting on SPF, is I got microneedling. So I was a chain smoker for 10 years. I treated my body like absolute trash. And I looked older at 21 than I do now at 29. And so, what is microneedling? Microneedling is a procedure or a facial, I guess, where they take basically a little machine that has a bunch of needles and it's a lot like a tattoo, and they basically needle all over your face. So what that's doing is that's creating a wound in your face. And then what that does is when there's a bunch of tiny wounds, it stimulates collagen production. It stimulates the healing process, which creates extra collagen in your skin. So this can be great for, acne scarring. If you have like deep pockets from acne scarring, this can be great for that. This can be great for like even hyperpigmentation. It's great for fine lines, for wrinkles. It also, I did notice a big difference here. So the first year that I got microneedling done, I got it done 3 times because usually you have to get like a package of 3 to really see the results. I swear to God, it took years off my face, like years. I had never been told that I looked young for my age. I'd always been told I looked older, probably because I was hacking some darts, but uh, yeah, so that obviously, I also quit smoking, so that did wonders for my skin as well. But that microneedling was the almost like the age reversal time machine that I needed. I still try to get microneedling at least once or twice a year, but obviously the cost is quite high, so it can be prohibitive. But I will say, of all the things that I've tried and all the things that I've done, I've really seen the best results with microneedling. This year, I'm 29. My family has really deep wrinkles, and we're like so white. So, white people age terribly, like generally. And there is like science behind that. And it's just because we have less collagen in our skin. Anyone with melanin in their skin, they have a thicker layer of collagen. So that's why you hear those like really common sayings about, people basically like everyone aging better than white people. So I started getting Botox. I got Botox here. I think I got like actually I think I got like Dysport, and I can't remember how many units I got, but I got that about 6 months ago. I did like it. I did find that it was great for just helping get rid of these wrinkles a little bit. I'm gonna go back actually this week. I don't have any intention of getting Botox every 3 months. I'm trying to get to a place where I will get Botox, once a year and then supplement it with something like RF microneedling. So that's radio frequency microneedling. I haven't tried it yet, but when I do, I will let you guys know. I also have a deep interest in lasers. Haven't tried that. So I've only tried Botox and microneedling. And the reason why I love the microneedling is because it's improving your skin as a whole. Like basically, that whole thing is allowing your skin to become a better version of itself, a healthier version of itself. So that I love kind of focusing my attention more on that as opposed to Botox, which is more of you have a singular problem area and let's kind of like smooth the pieces of the paper. However, with Botox, they do say that it's almost better to start early because that way it's a lot easier to basically freeze your face so that you're not having to try to like iron out deep wrinkles down the road because it just might not be possible. So I know people have said there's a lot of research saying that Botox lowers your ability to empathize with other people and, of course, your ability to express emotion. Expressing emotion is obvious because we express emotion through our face. So when your face is frozen, it's going to be harder for people to read you. That might be a good thing, that might be a bad thing, depends on who you are. It also depends on, if you have kids, or you have babies, do you want your babies to be able to read your face? All of those things. It's really up to everyone and their own individual choices, of course. I did notice a little drop in my empathy because, and honestly, it was a welcome relief because I, um, I just am like overly empathetic and I would like see someone fall in a parking lot and my heart would just go out to them. And I did notice that like with Botox, it just for the first like week or two, it was just a little bit less, but I'm not gonna lie, it felt like sweet relief. I love my empathy. It's a beautiful part of me, but it's kind of nice to have that dulled down just a little bit. I don't know how long that lasts, but it's always worth doing your own research, and I think it is worth knowing going into it. My approach is I'm probably going to stay away from filler for quite some time. I see filler as kind of being my last like arm of defense, I guess. Like I would because I just see so many horror stories of the filler migrating or going, basically moving somewhere that it shouldn't. And then, But I do know that if you get the right injector, you can have a good experience. It's just not my path at this time. And so I can't really speak to it. But yeah, so that is my overall skincare story, my acne journey. I hope you guys found this valuable and let me know in the comments if you'd like me to show you my exact routine, my skincare routine, and please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, guys.